Have you ever felt like something was off with someone in your life? Maybe a friend, a colleague, or even a partner? They smile at you, they say all the right things, but something inside tells you that they might not be who they appear to be. Well, today we're diving into a question that has plagued humanity for centuries. How can we identify an evil person in our lives before it's too late? Before we begin, take a moment to hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and be sure to watch it to the end because what you're about to learn might just change the way you approach your relationships, both romantic and otherwise. Now let's dig deeper into understanding the traits that might indicate you're dealing with someone who is far from being good-hearted. We're going to explore 5 key signs, and through this, we will bring in wisdom from Marcus Aurelius and Stoicism to guide us in recognizing these toxic behaviors. You see, life is full of interactions, relationships and encounters, some brief, some long-lasting. But not all people you meet are there to bring positivity into your life. While some people seek growth, others are driven by darker motivations, manipulation, selfishness, and cruelty. So how do we recognize them before we fall into their trap? Stoicism, a philosophy born in ancient Greece, offers timeless advice on how to navigate these challenges. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most revered Stoic philosophers and a Roman emperor, believed that the world is full of both good and bad people, and part of wisdom lies in knowing how to deal with each of them. What if I told you that Marcus Aurelius left behind suggestions that could help us not only recognize evil but protect ourselves from it? Imagine having the mental fortitude to spot the signs early and distance yourself from negativity before it causes any harm. Well, that's exactly what we'll uncover in today's video. With that said, let's dive into the 5 signs you might be dealing with an evil person, and how Stoic principles can help you navigate these dangerous waters. Sign 1. They consistently manipulate your emotions. Have you ever found yourself in a relationship, whether romantic or otherwise, where the person seemed to have a strange, almost supernatural ability to push and pull at your emotions? One minute they're sweet and loving, showering you with attention, and the next they've turned cold, making you feel like you've done something wrong when you're pretty sure you haven't. I want you to think back to a time when you felt confused by someone's behavior. Maybe it was in a relationship or even with a friend. But that person's moods were unpredictable. They might have said things that made you feel guilty for no reason, or they used your compassion to get what they wanted. It's like you were stuck in a game and you couldn't figure out the rules. Let me tell you a story that might sound familiar to you. A story about someone who fell deeply in love. Imagine a person, let's call him Alex, who was madly in love with someone. The person was kind at first, sweet and attentive, just like anyone would dream of in a perfect partner. Alex was on cloud 9, constantly feeling cherished and appreciated. They would have long conversations about their dreams and the future, sharing their deepest thoughts and emotions. It felt like the beginning of something truly beautiful, but over time things started to shift. It was subtle at first, maybe just a cold comment here and there, or a slight dismissal of Alex's feelings, but then it became harder to ignore. This person Alex loved began playing mind games, shifting from sweetness to coldness without warning. And Alex? Well, he was left confused, questioning himself, thinking, was I too needy? Did I say something wrong? Have you ever been in that situation? One moment, you feel like you're the most important person in their world, and the next, you're left wondering what you did to make them pull away. This is emotional manipulation at its finest. The person would, at times, act like nothing was wrong, but then there were the other times. Those times when they made Alex feel guilty for something he hadn't even done. Perhaps they would say things like, "You never do enough for me," or "I don't feel loved anymore." And just when Alex would start to feel the weight of that guilt, the person would pull back again, becoming distant and cold. And just like that, Alex would start to overthink, obsess over what went wrong, and try to fix things, feeling like they were walking on eggshells, always trying to please the other person. Sound familiar? This is emotional manipulation, and it's one of the clearest signs you're dealing with someone who doesn't have your best interests at heart. They thrive on making you feel insecure, uncertain, and above all, dependent on them for validation. They use your love and compassion against you, making you feel like you're the one in the wrong when in reality, they're the ones creating all the chaos. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, talks about the importance of not allowing others to control your emotions. He writes, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." What does this mean? Well, when we let someone manipulate our emotions, we give them power over us. We let them dictate how we feel, and that weakens us. So how can you stop this from happening? First, you need to recognize the manipulation for what it is. When someone's behavior starts making you feel unsure about yourself, question their motives. Are they genuinely concerned for your well-being? Or are they using your emotional response to get something they want? Remember, love shouldn't feel like a constant emotional roller coaster. Sure, every relationship has its ups and downs, but if you're continuously left questioning your worth or second-guessing your actions, that's a huge red flag. Real love is built on mutual respect, trust, and understanding, not mind games. So I ask you, have you ever been in a relationship where someone's emotional manipulation made you feel like you were losing yourself? How did it feel when they pulled you in and then pushed you away? If you've experienced this, share your thoughts in the comments. Let's start a conversation. I want to know about your love stories, your challenges, and how you handled those emotional roller coasters. And as we continue, remember, recognizing these signs is the first step to reclaiming control over your emotions and your relationships. Stay tuned, because the next signs are just as crucial in helping you spot an evil person before they can cause any more damage. Sign 2. They are constantly self-centered. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in a relationship where it felt like the other person was always the center of attention, always talking about themselves, and always putting their needs above yours? It's almost like they were the sun and you were just one of the planets orbiting around them. You were there, sure, but only to serve their needs, their desires, and their emotions. This is something that many of us experience at some point in our lives. But when you're caught up in it, you don't always see the bigger picture. Let me tell you a story, one that might sound like your own love story, or perhaps a story you've witnessed from afar. Meet Emma. Emma was in a relationship with a man named Lucas. When they first met, it was like a whirlwind. He was charming, caring, and she felt like she had found someone who truly understood her. They would talk for hours about everything, their hopes, their dreams, even the little things that made them smile. But as time passed, Emma started noticing something troubling. Every conversation seemed to circle back to Lucas. He talked endlessly about his career, his goals, his problems, his past. But when Emma shared her own dreams, her struggles, or even her triumphs, he quickly changed the subject or barely listened. It was as if her life didn't matter as much as his. She would tell him about her day and he would smile, nod, but then go back to talking about himself. Has this ever happened to you? You've shared something important, maybe a moment of joy or a challenging day, and instead of receiving support, you were met with indifference, or worse, a quick segue into their own story? How did that make you feel? Did you ever feel invisible in those moments? Like your feelings didn't even register? That's the thing with self-centered people. They lack empathy. They are so absorbed in their own world that they can't see or care about yours. They view every interaction as a way to advance their own agenda, to make themselves feel better, or to secure something they want from you. The relationship becomes one-sided, and over time it wears you down. Let's dive deeper into Emma's story. As Lucas continued to prioritize his own needs, Emma began to feel something she had never felt before: resentment. At first she tried to be patient, thinking, maybe he's just going through something, or maybe he doesn't realize what he's doing. But then the realization hit her like a ton of bricks. Lucas was never really interested in her as a person. She was just a supporting character in his life story. Have you ever felt that way? Like you were only there to make someone else's life more comfortable or convenient? Like your needs didn't matter, or they were never acknowledged? It's a painful feeling, and it can make you question your worth in the relationship. What's even worse is when these self-centered individuals disguise their behavior as self-confidence or ambition. They might tell you how much they have going on in their life, how much they're achieving, and how everyone should understand their priorities. But what they don't tell you is that in the process, they're draining you. They're taking up all the emotional space, leaving you feeling exhausted and unimportant. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, had wise words for situations like these. He once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This quote reflects the Stoic belief that we shouldn't waste our energy on people who take advantage of our kindness and love. We must hold ourselves to higher standards, not allowing others to manipulate our feelings for their own gain. So what should you do when you recognize this self-centered behavior? First, understand that you cannot change someone who is determined to remain the center of their own universe. You can't make them care about your needs if they're not willing to. The key is to recognize this early on and decide whether you want to continue investing your emotional energy in a relationship that only benefits one person. If you've ever been in a relationship like Emma's, you know the toll it can take on your heart. But now that you're aware of this red flag, you have the power to make different choices moving forward. Don't let someone else's selfishness steal your peace, your joy, or your self-worth. I want to hear from you. Have you been in a relationship where someone's self-centeredness left you feeling drained and undervalued? How did you handle it? Did you confront them or did you walk away? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And remember, love should never feel like an unequal exchange. The best relationships are built on mutual respect, empathy, and care for one another's well-being. Keep an eye out for those who only take, and make sure you're giving your heart to someone who truly appreciates it. Sign 3. They project false personas. Let me ask you something. Have you ever fallen for someone who seemed perfect at first, charming, thoughtful, and everything you ever dreamed of, only to find out later that the person you were falling for was someone completely different from who they originally presented themselves to be? It's almost like they wore a mask, hiding their true nature until it was too late to turn back. This is one of the most heartbreaking things that can happen in a relationship, feeling deceived, feeling like the person you were loving didn't even exist. They were a version of themselves, one that was crafted carefully for you. But beneath the surface, there was something else entirely. Let me tell you a story about a woman named Sarah and the man she thought was the love of her life. Sarah met Michael at a mutual friend's party. He was charming, the life of the room, and seemed so attentive to her from the moment they spoke. He asked about her interests, her childhood, her dreams, and Sarah felt as though she had finally met someone who truly understood her. Every date was perfect. He opened doors for her, made her laugh, and even shared some of his own personal stories, making her feel like they were connecting on a deep level. Over time, Sarah began to fall for Michael, the man she thought was everything she wanted, but there was something about him that always felt a little too perfect. When they spent time together, he was always the one who led the conversation, always the one who kept things light and playful. Sarah started sharing her own thoughts and experiences, hoping for a deeper connection, but Michael would quickly steer the conversation back to himself. At first, she thought it was just nerves, or maybe he was just really confident, but soon, she realized that Michael never let her talk about her true feelings for long. His stories always took center stage. One night, after months of dating, Sarah found herself opening up about a personal struggle, something deeply painful she had never shared with anyone before. Michael, instead of listening or comforting her, responded by talking about how his childhood was harder, how his past was more traumatic. He didn't even acknowledge her pain. It was as if she didn't matter at all in that moment. Now, I want you to stop and think for a second. Have you ever experienced something like this? Have you ever been with someone who seemed perfect but never really saw you? They only saw a reflection of themselves in you, and their words were carefully crafted to keep you enamored with an illusion. This is what we call a false persona. It's a mask that someone wears to appear as the ideal partner, the perfect match. But when the mask starts to slip, and you see the real person behind it, you realize that you've been deceived. They weren't sharing their true self. They were showing you what you wanted to see. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "If someone is able to show you their true nature, you should be grateful, for that is a gift of truth." So often we get caught up in the image of a person rather than who they really are underneath. And when the truth comes out, it can be a painful awakening. Sarah began to realize that the man she had fallen for wasn't the real Michael. He had carefully crafted a version of himself to attract her, hiding parts of his true personality that weren't as charming or appealing. The more she got to know him, the more she saw cracks in the facade. But she had already invested so much emotion, so much love, that it was hard to walk away. Now here's where it gets tricky. Love can make us blind, can't it? We see what we want to see, and we ignore the warning signs because we don't want to believe that the person we love isn't the person we thought they were. But what happens when the mask completely slips off? What happens when you realize you've been loving an illusion? I want you to think about your own experiences for a moment. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt deceived by someone's image, only to later discover that who they were beneath the surface was someone entirely different? Share your stories in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. The lesson here is simple. Don't be fooled by appearances. Love is about authenticity, vulnerability, and trust. A real connection is built on the truth, not a mask. If you ever feel like someone is presenting a false version of themselves to you, don't ignore it. The sooner you recognize it, the sooner you can protect yourself from the pain of realizing that the love you thought you had was never real to begin with. Sign 4. They play the victim to avoid responsibility. Have you ever been in a relationship where no matter what happened, the other person always seemed to play the victim? No matter what you did, no matter how hard you tried to make things right, they somehow twisted every situation to make themselves the one who was wronged. It's like a game where they never have to own up to their actions, and you're left feeling guilty for things that weren't even your fault. Let me take you through a story that might sound all too familiar to you. Meet Jake. Jake was dating someone named Lily, and everything seemed perfect at first. They shared great moments together, laughing, enjoying each other's company, and building a bond that seemed unbreakable. But as time went on, Jake started noticing something that began to unsettle him. It wasn't always so clear, but there was a pattern. Every time something went wrong, whether it was a small disagreement or a bigger issue, Lily would twist it around. She would make it seem like she was the one who was hurt, like she was the one being wronged, and no matter how hard Jake tried to explain his side, she would turn the conversation back to herself. Do you know that feeling? When you try to talk through something with your partner, only to have them turn it all around and make you feel like you're the one at fault? Maybe you've experienced it in your own love life. Those moments where you're trying to work things out, but instead of finding a solution, you're left feeling like you're the one who needs to apologize even when you did nothing wrong. Jake had started to feel like he was walking on eggshells. Every time a disagreement came up, Lily would react as if she was the victim of some great injustice. One day they had an argument about something minor, whether to go out to dinner or stay in. But Lily immediately became upset, saying Jake never cared about her opinion, that he always dismissed her needs. She made him feel like everything was his fault, even though he hadn't been dismissive at all. And the more Jake tried to explain, the more Lily played the victim card. It was always the same. You don't understand me, or you don't care about how I feel, or I'm always the one who gets hurt. She turned everything around, and in the end, Jake was left wondering, was it really my fault? Why do I feel like this is always happening? Now I want you to think about your own experiences. Have you ever been in a relationship where your partner seemed to constantly play the victim? Maybe when you tried to talk things through, they avoided taking responsibility for their actions and instead made you feel guilty for even bringing up the issue? I'm sure at some point, many of us have found ourselves in this situation. It's a difficult one, because the victim mentality can be incredibly manipulative. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, spoke about the importance of accepting responsibility for one's actions. He said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." What does this mean? It means that when we take responsibility for our own actions, we gain control over our lives. When we refuse to take responsibility, however, we give away that control, and it puts us at the mercy of others. In Jake's case, Lily's refusal to take responsibility for her actions made it impossible for them to move forward as a couple. Every time an issue arose, she played the victim, avoiding accountability. And Jake, no matter how much he tried to make her see reason, was always left with the burden of feeling like the bad guy. If you've ever been in a relationship like this, you know how draining it can be. It's like you're constantly trying to fix something that isn't broken. You're trying to heal a wound that your partner refuses to acknowledge. And the more you try, the more you get caught in a cycle of guilt and frustration. I want to hear from you. Have you ever been in a relationship where your partner played the victim to avoid responsibility? How did it affect you? Did you eventually speak up, or did you just walk away? Share your experiences in the comments below. Remember, real love is about understanding and taking responsibility for your actions, both good and bad. If you're in a relationship where someone consistently refuses to own their part in the problems, it might be time to reconsider whether that person is truly capable of building a healthy, balanced partnership. Sign 5. They use your weaknesses against you. Have you ever shared something deeply personal with your partner? Something vulnerable, maybe a secret fear or a painful memory, only to have them throw it back in your face during an argument? It's a feeling unlike any other. You let someone into your heart, and instead of treating that trust with respect, they use your most vulnerable moments as ammunition to hurt you. This is one of the most dangerous signs. You might be dealing with someone who is emotionally manipulative. They exploit your weaknesses, your deepest insecurities, and turn them against you when things go wrong. And let me tell you, it's not only painful, but it can also feel like a betrayal of the highest order. Let me share a story, one that might resonate with your own experience. Meet Alex. Alex had been dating Michelle for about a year. In the beginning, their relationship was a dream. They laughed together, they made great memories, and it felt like they were a perfect match. Alex had always been someone who struggled with self-esteem, often feeling like he wasn't good enough, especially after a difficult breakup years ago. Michelle, though, made him feel special. She reassured him, told him that he was amazing just the way he was, and for the first time in a long time, Alex felt loved and accepted. But over time, something started to change. The relationship wasn't as lighthearted as it once was. Arguments began to creep into their interactions, and when they fought, Michelle's words started to cut deeper. Instead of discussing the issue at hand, she would bring up Alex's past struggles, his insecurities, and use them to tear him down. She would say things like, "You'll always be like this, won't you? You're never going to get over your issues. Or maybe if you weren't so weak, I wouldn't have to deal with all this." Have you ever experienced something like this? Where the person you loved, the one you trusted, used your weaknesses against you to win an argument or manipulate you into feeling guilty? It's devastating, isn't it? The person who should be supporting you when you're at your lowest is instead the one to make you feel even worse about yourself. For Alex, the situation got worse. Every time they fought, Michelle would dig up his past mistakes, his vulnerabilities, and twist them into personal attacks. Instead of healing together, they were growing further apart. What should have been a safe space, a relationship built on trust and understanding, became a battleground where Alex felt like he had to defend his very identity. Now let's pause for a second. I want you to think about your own experiences. Have you ever been in a relationship where your partner used your fears or insecurities against you? Maybe they brought up something personal you had shared in confidence, or perhaps they knew exactly what to say to hurt you. It's painful, isn't it? To feel like the person you love knows your weaknesses and uses them as weapons. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." What does this mean? It means that when someone tries to hurt us by using our weaknesses against us, the best response is not to stoop to their level, but to rise above it. We don't need to retaliate or make them feel the way they've made us feel. Instead, we choose to stay true to ourselves, to rise above the manipulation, and to preserve our integrity. But how do you rise above this kind of hurt? How do you stop someone from using your vulnerabilities against you? The answer is simple. You protect your heart and your mind. You set boundaries. You don't let others weaponize your past or your insecurities, and you remember that you are worthy of love and respect, just as you are. For Alex, the turning point came when he realized that he couldn't continue being in a relationship where his weaknesses were used as a form of control. He began to recognize that true love doesn't look like this. True love doesn't tear you down. True love doesn't use your struggles to manipulate you or make you feel small. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had someone use your vulnerabilities against you? How did it affect your relationship? Did you confront them or did you let it slide? Share your experiences in the comments below. You're not alone in this, and it's important to talk about these things. Remember, love should never feel like an emotional battlefield. You deserve to be with someone who lifts you up, who supports you through your struggles, not someone who uses them to make you feel inferior. If you're in a relationship where your weaknesses are constantly used against you, it might be time to reconsider what you're truly worth and whether you're getting the love you deserve. So how do we deal with such people? How do we protect ourselves from those who seek to bring harm into our lives? Stoicism offers us the clarity and wisdom we need. First, we recognize that these individuals are out of our control. We cannot change them, but we can control how we respond. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that we must maintain our integrity and our calm, no matter how others behave. By practicing self-discipline and maintaining our values, we can prevent these toxic people from having power over us. Second, we must be aware of the warning signs early. The sooner we identify them, the sooner we can distance ourselves from their negative influence. It's not about fighting them, it's about preserving our peace. Finally, we must practice self-respect. When we value ourselves and our own well-being, we are less likely to tolerate toxic behavior. Stoicism teaches that our actions should align with virtue, and part of that is protecting ourselves from those who would harm us. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.